Guys, you can really now see why it is that BMW and Mercedes-Benz have been pleading with the European Union. Don't put taxes on Chinese cars. Don't put taxes on Chinese batteries or motors. Don't do this. They've been saying this over and over and over, and we can now see why, because they're under immense pressure now. BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, the majority of their profit comes from the Chinese car market, and now China is threatening retaliation against America and against Europe. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. China, well, clearly China, they're fed up. They believe they're being targeted. They think it's unfair. They actually even think it's illegal. It's not illegal. That's ridiculous. But China feels that way, and you can kind of see where they're coming from. Everyone is targeting China because China is targeting everyone else when it comes to taking over their market. I mean, the automotive industry, China's been in it for many years, but to be honest, it's been a side player up until the last couple of years, in particular the last 12 months, when now they're the biggest exporter of cars worldwide. Nobody saw this coming, other than a few YouTubers. Isn't that weird? Anyhow, China is considering a 25% tax on foreign vehicles with large engines. This would just be the beginning. Now, you're probably thinking, large engines, who sells large engines? Well, have a think about that, guys. Have a think about it. Premium manufacturers do. BMW, Mercedes, Audi, they sell, what do they sell in China? They sell the A8, right? The Audi A8. They sell, many Mercedes-Benz engines have V8s in China. Same thing with BMW. That's their premium segment. That's where these car manufacturers are making massive markups on these cars that are selling for $150,000 plus. That's their bread and butter. That's where they can say, you know what, on a 3 Series, BMW 3 Series, what are they making in profit? Probably, 10%. Maybe they're making 5-10 grand. But on the sale of an AMG Mercedes-Benz, they're making $20,000-$30,000. So that's like the equivalent of selling 6 C-Class sedans. China's tariffs on foreign cars follow President Biden's increased tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles entering the United States. Now, France has done the same thing, just quietly. If you want to sell cars made in China, in France, it's very hard to do that now. There are significant tariffs on them. Now, Europe is going to follow suit. All across Europe, the European Union plans on putting these tariffs on Chinese-made vehicles. The White House launched new tariffs on Chinese imports, including over 100% tariff rates on EVs from China. So now you want to sell vehicles from China in America. The tax rate is 102.5%. Now, keep in mind, guys, here, China is furious. They are absolutely furious at America. They believe that America is targeting, that this is illegal. They're apparently trying to take America to the federal court arbitration worldwide, some kind of worldwide court for this. I don't even know if this is, I don't even know if it's possible, but apparently China says America is doing illegal things. So, yeah, they have, China and Australia, we've had a rocky relationship. But when China gets angry at Australia, it really affects us. I mean, in a big way. The probe comes after a surge in EU imports of electric vehicles from China, outstripping other Chinese export markets. It may result in the Commission levying countervailing tariffs on EU imports of EVs from China to offset state subsidies if substantiated and to level the playing field, said the European Commission. The European Commission claim that every car brand sells an EV in Europe or anywhere else in the world. So, for example, if BYD sells an EV in Brazil or Europe, the European Commission says they get a subsidy into their bank account immediately. It's like a couple of $1,000s. There's some exact fee, and they say they have evidence that this happens, and it's not just for BYD, it's for MG, it's for all car brands. So there is clear incentives from the Chinese government. The Chinese government is not denying that they do that, but to be fair, probably other governments do that as well. As the EU Commission's probe on Chinese EVs ends, China is preparing for imposed tariffs on its EV imports into Europe. And of course, it can't sell cars in America either. Europe will allegedly release more information about tariffs on Chinese EV imports by early June. Now, the Commission found that Tesla does not receive these incentives from the Chinese government. They're the only manufacturer that we know of, maybe Dacia as well, that are manufacturing cars in China, selling them overseas and not receiving incentives from the Chinese government. The European Commission have confirmed that. China is considering tariffs of its own on cars from the US and Europe. And think about it, guys. I mean, General Motors, Volkswagen, their sales of vehicles in China have fallen drastically over the last couple of years. Japanese automakers have fallen even more in terms of percentage numbers, but they're still China is so important for these manufacturers. They're still making billions of dollars in China. That could end pretty soon, though. According to China's Ministry of Commerce, it is thinking of raising its EU car import tariffs from 15 to 25%. The increased car tariffs would affect vehicles with engines larger than 2.5 litres. There's millions of cars being sold in China with engines bigger than 2.5 litres. So, I mean, that's like a 3-litre 6-cylinder engine. Anything that size and above. And to be honest, there's actually a lot of Japanese cars as well that are sold in China, made by Chinese joint ventures with Japanese car companies. But there's a lot of them, Toyota vehicles in particular, that have 2.5-litre 4-cylinder engines as well. Those will receive 25% tariff. That's a pretty big tariff. However, people are saying that this will affect Mercedes and BMW more than anyone else. Mobility practice consultancy called Intralink says they've done the numbers, they've looked at it. Mercedes-Benz and BMW in particular will lose enormous amounts of money in China if this actually happens, and it looks like it very likely will. That's why Mercedes-Benz and BMW have been trying to stop the European Union from putting these tariffs on Chinese cars. Similar to the United States, China is considering increased tariffs on other EU products like liquor and dairy. In other words, China will retaliate with whatever means they have in order to basically threaten the European Union to get them to change their minds on these tariffs. This is the way of the world. This is the way of business. But guys, what are your thoughts on this? How do you think this will affect legacy auto? You know what I think. I think legacy auto are absolutely screwed. Some experts are saying by 2040, more than 95% of the entire global automotive industry will have moved to China. Now, I don't believe that's the case. I think America will still maintain some of their automotive industry. But outside of America, this very well could happen. And this will devastate the economies of Germany and, of course, even more so, Japan, which is the most indebted country in the history of mankind.